Hello and welcome to Civil War Digital Digest. I'm Andy, on location here at the Union Drummer Boy in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. And I am here with Brenden Cinnamon, the owner of the shop. I do want to say before we get going, thank you to our patrons who support us, allow us to go on the road, and get to go to a place like this and get to tell stories. Brenden, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thanks for coming.
Well, thank you for having us. You know, today, we came here and we wanted to talk to you about collecting, right? You've owned this shop for years. You're big into the collecting community. Wanted to talk to you about your experiences in collecting and also some of the pitfalls, some of the things to look out for, and some of the things, any recommendations you might have to people as they're interested in getting into collecting Civil War items.
That'll be awesome. That's what I do every day. So being in Gettysburg, we have a lot of people come in that are first-time collectors. So we kind of walk everybody through the process. And then we have a lot of seasoned collectors. So I started when I was 12. So it was just a hobby that got out of control. So I know all well I'm my own best customer. So I do this kind of to support my habits, so to speak.
So tell us a little bit about the shop here in town first.
So we're located at 34 York Street in Gettysburg, and we carry strictly original, no reproduction artifacts. Everything is guaranteed authentic lifetime. We take pride in the items that we offer. We're kind of an adoption agency for relics, so not only do we sell you an item, but we kind of walk you through the care and ownership of the item as well.
Do you cover other eras here besides the Civil War?
I have thousands of items from other wars, but in the gallery we just sell Civil War. But I have several thousand World War II items that we have, but that are not out for sale in the gallery.
Okay. Well, I know you said you got into it when you were young. What was your process? How did you learn to get to where you are now? What was your growing process like?
So we got a phone call from Kansas and said, were you related to a Henderson Cinnamon? My dad said, yes. My grandfather's name was Henderson. Turned out his father's name was Henderson. And that was the first conversation since the Civil War. So we were truly a family divided. Two fought for the North and one fought for the South. And that was the first conversation they had had. So my dad would take a day off work. I'd play hooky from school. We'd start researching our family history and we ended up in Gettysburg with a antique gun show, Civil War artifact show going on. And we went in, and from then the rest is history.
You know, so as you built your own collection and now have helped other people, what are you looking for when you evaluate an original item?
So there's a lot of forensics that go into it. So, and other known items. So if you only know what originals look like, you know half of it. You also have to stay up on the reproductions as well. And there's a lot of good quality reproductions that are improving. When we call an item out as spurious or fake, the things that we point out, the next time the person that does that will change those to look more like the original. So you have to stay on top of your game as far as, but it's different between textiles and firearms. And, you know, you really have to look at things under magnification and really delve into the processes available for production at the time.
Is it just you guys here on site that are part of that process? Do you include other people?
So like any good long-running antique store, you have a Rolodex of experts. So not everybody knows everything. If you get somebody, it's okay to say you don't know.
Sure.
You know,
yeah.
And a lot of times people are ego hurt to say, I don't know. But the reality is you can't know everything. So when you get into specialty stamps and cancellations, that's a lifetime of learning. When you get into the forensics of paint and textile dyes, when you're delving that deep into something, yes, you have to have forensic labs and that sort of things involved as well. But I'd say 90 to 95% of it is done in-house by myself.
What about restoration for items? I'm sure you get some items that come in less than ideal condition, right?
We back a lot of things that are reversible. So on textiles and that sort of thing, totally reversible processes. You don't want to be cleaning and polishing firearms.
Sure.
Inhibiting the rust and that sort of thing is wonderful. Good oils, moisturizing care for your weaponries. Moth holes in a uniform, different thing that can be back. They're all removable enhancements that make it more aesthetically pleasing, or just as simply as freezing items and cryogenically stopping the process of moths in the textiles, wool's eating the protein, moths eating the proteins of wool.
It's more stabilization rather than restoration.
And proper storage, you know, nothing like extremes, no direct sunlight, that sort of thing. So in the process of caring for these items, we will appropriately oil them, store them, freeze them, get archival material to store them in, because those things age as well.
Sure.
And
Yeah. What's your research process like?
that's part of what I enjoy, is getting an item with an identification and then finding their story. But the research on the artifact itself, as far as manufacturing is there as well, as far as serial numbers research, as far as how many they produced, how many the inspectors. So there's all different levels, and you can go down a rabbit hole with pretty much any artifact. So I've got to limit my excitement and enjoyment for the artifact with processing things for resale. So there's a fine balance there. And if I get too deep and too excited, I end up wanting to keep it for myself.
Yeah,
so.
I can see that being a really dangerous rabbit hole to go down. Well, and looking around here, one of the things I've been blown away as Will and I have gone around the shop is just the tags on everything. The amount of research on display about the items you have. Clearly, I imagine as someone coming in here looking for it, the idea that there is a story attached to this item. It's not just a pair of shoulder straps or a medicine bottle or something that where it comes from, where the story probably helps connect them to that item.
Sure. When people bring items to us, which we get a lot of items brought in for, this was in my family, we always try to get any story we can, even if they say, I don't know anything about it, or dad did a boat motor repair and I got paid and the guy gave him this. There's all sorts of stories, but we try to get that so history's not lost. So anything that we gain as far as information on it, we provide that with it. But half the time, it was just in a box and nobody knows. Sure. Those special pieces where the soldier thought enough to put his name on it, then we try to go in that direction and really pull their story out so that their history is not lost on the individual basis.
Okay. We've talked a little bit about, forgeries or things that are modernly made reproductions that people either unwittingly or wittingly try to pass off. What are the things that kind of give you alarm bells, make you suspicious of an item when someone shows it to you?
Well, there's a lot of things that get done, and any collectible where there's a value added, there's people that will try and do things to add value. And I think back to when I was just in my early teens. I was probably 14 and I wanted a Colt pistol. And my dad said, okay, we'll get you a Colt pistol. And we went to a gun show in Frederick, Maryland. And I looked through the whole show. I'm trying to find the right Colt pistol. Yeah. And I asked the dealer, is this real? He said, absolutely real. I said, are all the parts original? I'm asking every question I could think of that I was taught to ask. Every part has always been on that gun. I said, why is this one so much cheaper? Why is this $600 and these are $2,000? I bought that one much cheaper. So he had satisfied my questions.
Sure.
Bought it for $600, stopped at a shop here in Gettysburg, showed them, and they said, that's an Italian-made reproduction.
Oh.
And my heart was just sunk. So we jumped back in the vehicle, went back to the gun show, and brought it back to the dealer. And I said, hey, I was told this is an Italian reproduction. It's not original. It's been artificially aged. And he said, but you told me it was real. He said, and I remember, I'm 14. He looks at me and says, of course it's real. You can touch it, can't you?
Oh.
And I'm thinking, okay, well, you told me all the parts were real. And they're telling me it's an Italian kit. Well, yeah, all the parts are from that same kit. Yeah. So we're playing semantics. This is a guy who looked God in the face and lied to him. I mean,
absolutely.
And he says my dad says, the kid doesn't want a reproduction. He told you. He said, well, I'll tell you what, I'll give him half his money back. And my dad said, okay. And I'm, my heart sunk. And he gives my dad $300. And then my dad says, now give him the other $300. The guy said, wait, that's not the deal here.
Yeah.
And my dad said, I got a deal for you. I'll stand in front of your table, make sure you don't make another sale.
Yeah.
And the guy gave me the rest of the money. We gave him the pistol, said, pleasure doing business. And that was probably one of my most valuable lessons is, here's an excited kid, wants to do nothing but collect and learn and study. And there was somebody who was willing to take his money knowingly. So it's a lesson that a lot of collectors end up learning, and it's your tuition. We all buy bad things. You learn better from your mistakes than you do the ones that I get 4 times my money on. Those are great, but you don't learn as much from those.
Yeah.
You want to go to state school, not Harvard. You do not want to pay the tuition of a exceptionally valuable piece that turns out not to be. That's why you buy from people that either guarantee their items. We guarantee them 100%. There's other dealers that do in writing. If you're at one of the trade shows, a venue, and you buy something off a dealer, there's other experts in the room.
Sure.
Don't just take it out to your car, put it in your car, and think the person that's selling it to you sold you exactly what. Show it to other people, or even before you exchange money.
Pull someone over.
Pull somebody over and say, I spend more time my show's looking at other dealers' artifacts for my collectors than I do selling them pieces. And when they have we have something that they enjoy, they buy it off us. So there is a community aspect to that.
Excellent. Well, before we get going, do you have anything kind of as a starting piece of advice for someone that wants to get into the field of collecting, something that can help them start making these connections to history?
Sure, absolutely. So some people collect because they have an interest in cavalry, or their relative was in a certain regiment and they want to go that direction and collect what their relative had, or they're a physician and they want to collect medical,
Sure.
or just a general love for a certain battle. So your reference books are wonderful. There are tons of references out there. Your reference books are probably one of your most valuable things you can own. Besides that is a relationship with a good vendor. If you're collecting and you don't know what you're doing, some of these online auctions and that sort of thing, not to single any websites out, are dangerous. They're a minefield for the collector. You might as well take your money and separate them into two piles and burn one of them. Your chances of success are very slim. Now, I can shop off of those because of 36 years of experience. I can tell you from looking at them, it's a minefield, and it is a wonderful hobby and investment if you do it right. So get somebody you trust, and then, as Reagan said, trust but verify. Have somebody else look at it. We never mind somebody showing an item that we've sold, because authenticity doesn't change because it changed hands.
Sure.
So
absolutely.
Authenticity is not subjective. Value is subjective. So I don't normally comment as far as value when somebody says, hey, unless it's so egregiously out of line.
Sure.
But authenticity is never subjective. Somebody says it could be this, could be that, you've got the wrong guy. There's no gray area.
Yes. Yeah. So within collecting then, do you see this as a hobby? Do you see this as a profession? Like, how do you see this for collectors as they're getting into it?
So we have people of all different walks of life. So some are just strictly on the investing end. They like the artifacts, but they don't want to sleep with it next to their pillow.
They see it as something that's going to grow in value over time.
Sure. And that's got a 160-year track record of being true. So most of your items are better than blue chip stocks. You're 10% per annum. And I have people that want to invest, and if they're buying it at 80% of retail and it goes up 10% a year, at the end of the first year, they're 30% ahead. You can't do that with most stocks unless you're lucky.
Sure.
So they're only worth more if you're going to sell them.
Yeah.
Most of the collectors plan on dying with their items or making it their kids' problem. So it's for a love of it. But as an investment, if you compare that to 90% of other investments, unless you're lucky at Bitcoin, it tops that. Plus you have a tangible piece of American history. So I think it's the best out. I mean, make a living out of it. And I get to meet great people of all walks of life, and there are a lot of wonderful people. So not only is it enjoyable, it's an investment, and you have something that you can hold that tells history. I mean, it's the trifecta, really.
Well, Brenden, thank you absolutely for having us. This has been fantastic. Pleasure to be here in the shop. Pleasure to meet you and get to work with you today.
Anytime, reach out if you need anything.
Well, thank you so much. Well, there you have it, folks. We are here at the Union Drummer Boy, Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. And hopefully, if you're interested in getting into collecting, you've thought about it, or you're just interested in the Civil War, this will give you some advice as you get into it. And of course, if you're in town here in Gettysburg, I really encourage you to walk in the shop, walk around, just see all the history on display around you. As always on Civil War Digital Digest, we're trying to help you make a connection to history, and maybe collecting is another way for you to approach that. Either way, for the show, I'm Andy, and we'll catch you next time.